gentlemen, young people, welcome to this absolutely amazing day that we dreamt and hoped would come, and it has. And look, the sun's even shining. So we're very, very happy. Now, it's my pleasure and huge privilege to welcome you all and to represent my fellow trustees. My name is Juliet Alexander, and in a minute I'll introduce the other trustees who are over there. We have Maxine, we have Gina, we have Roxanne, we have Celia, we have Dawn, we have Bernell, we have Steve, Lisa, and Trevor. Please, let's welcome and thank the trustees of the Mary Seacole Memorial Statue Appeal. As I said, this has been a long-awaited unveiling. This statue will stand as a living testament to the life work of Mary Seacole, and as an ongoing tribute to the thousands of healthcare workers, medical and nursing professionals from the Caribbean, from Africa, and from Asia, who underpin the modern NHS. It's fitting that this statue should be here in the shadow of this world-renowned hospital, St Thomas's, and of course fitting that it should also be overlooking the Houses of Parliament.
Okay.
Now, there's a wonderful quotation from Nelson Mandela that I will just say very briefly here. He once said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." And this at many times has seemed impossible, but it will be a testimony of love, not hatred, because that's what Mary Seacole brought to the UK. And in these times, it might be something that we need to always remember, that love will overcome hatred. But it's fitting also that Sir Hugh Taylor, who's the chairman of Guy's and St Thomas's Foundation Trust, and who has fully supported this appeal, should be invited to provide the official welcome today. Please welcome Sir Hugh.
Thank you, Juliet. It is my pleasure, on behalf of Guy's and St Thomas's NHS Foundation Trust, to welcome you all to the gardens of St Thomas's Hospital today to mark the unveiling of this public statue, the first to a named black woman in this country. And may I add my own congratulations and thanks to those of Juliet, to Lord Soley, to all the trustees and all the supporters of the Mary Seacole Memorial Statue Appeal, because in a very, very important sense, this is your day. You've made it. Well done. And can I add my own word of thanks to Steve Maguire and all the staff of Essentia, who've done a lot to help and support the installation of the statue. We here at Guy's and St Thomas's are proud to be hosting this statue of a remarkable woman. Mary Seacole was a person of courage and determination, committed to the service of others. All of us who work and have worked in the NHS, and there are many here today, honour and acknowledge the contribution that generations of healthcare workers from black and minority ethnic backgrounds have made to the NHS over the years. For them, Mary Seacole is a pioneer, a role model for the courage and determination they have needed to follow their calling to serve their fellow human beings, often in challenging and sometimes in hostile circumstances. This statue stands for them as well as for her. For us here at Guy's and St Thomas's, it speaks in a special way to the diversity of our local population, our patients and our staff, of which we're very proud. As Juliet has said, we're very conscious that one of the reasons the statue is sited here is that from these gardens it overlooks the Houses of Parliament. In that sense, today's unveiling could not be more timely. Perhaps there's never been a time in our recent history when it's been more important to celebrate and stand up for difference. Mary Seacole was different, She was not and is not defined by what she wasn't, or by what she did or did not do when compared with anyone else. She is being honoured today for herself, for her contribution, which has become her legacy. As she stands proud, overlooking Parliament, she bears witness to what it means to be different in our society and the need to recognise it and honour it. In that spirit, may this statue of Mary Seacole be a present and enduring challenge and inspiration to us all. Thank you.
Now, thanks to Sir Hugh Taylor, Chairman of Guy's and St Thomas's Foundation Trust, for an excellent speech. Thank you. Now, I mentioned the Mary Seacole Memorial Statue Appeal. I haven't mentioned the hours, the days, the weekends, just the hard slog of putting this all together. Many of you who are here, who've been invited, were very, very generous, both with your time and with raising funds for this statue. But pulling it all together was the chairman of the Mary Seacole Memorial Statue Appeal. He's known as Lord Clive Soley. Sometimes he called him something different in the meetings. But right now, please welcome Lord Clive Soley.
I'm pleased he didn't tell you what they do call me. First of all, I just want to say the origin of this. 36 years ago, when I was a Member of Parliament for Hammersmith, a group of women of Caribbean heritage came up to me and asked if I would help them to draw attention to and clean up the grave of Mary Seacole in Kensal Green Cemetery. And of course I said yes. And they had all come over to Britain in 1939 and 1940 to help in the fight for freedom. And they were proud of that. They were really proud of it. They had serviced and cleaned the anti-aircraft guns which were spread over Wormwood Scrubs at the time. Those of you who know Wormwood Scrubs now think of it full of goalposts. At that time, it was full of anti-aircraft guns and anti-aircraft balloons. They helped Britain in that time of need. And they said that Mary Seacole was one of the people they looked up to. And they said there ought to be a statue to her. At that time, I made no comment because I'd just become an MP, and as an MP, you're run ragged, contrary to popular opinion. We do work as well. And I thought, I can't do anything. But when I stepped down from Parliament, I will try and do something. So towards 2003, 2004, when I knew I was not going to stand at the 2005 election, I set up this charity. And I have to thank so many people. I can't do it all here because there are so many. But literally thousands of individuals have contributed. Schools, hospitals, nurses, some of the army units, people, and of course we've had some major contributions from some individuals and of course from companies and organisations who put in either time or money. It took me much longer than I expected, but then I was told I was being very naive to think as I did that I could do it in 2 years. It has taken 13. So I am very conscious of that, but I also recognise that the importance of the message from Mary, as Sir Hugh has just said, is incredibly important. See, at the time when Britain was the world's dominant power, and the world's first power as an industrial revolution was going all over the world. And if you look at pictures of our ships at the time, there are lots of people on them who are of ethnic origins other than white UK. In fact, when I asked the Royal Navy how many sailors of African origin were at Trafalgar, they told me 188. Not 180, not 190, 188. And I said, how do you know? They've got all the records of the logs and the names and so on. So that was happening already, and Mary Seacole was part of that. But she overcame prejudice. She reached out to people of all races and it became incredibly popular. So popular that when the Crimean War ended very quickly, because of a peace agreement, basically between Britain, Russia, France and Turkey, or the Ottoman Empire as it was called at the time, basically because of that, she returned bankrupt. She built the British Hotel there, she funded it herself, she funded herself by selling food and drinks to the troops and others, but she was also nursing those troops. both in disease and in injury. And that's what made her so important, because she'd overcome some of the prejudices and some of the things that were put in her place. And again, I do say that in light of some of the hate crime that we're getting just now, which has sadly risen after the referendum, it is a terribly important message from Land's End to John O'Groats that Britain has always been open to the world, has always been tolerant of minorities coming here and becoming part of our society. And the message that this statue brings and will bring is a strong reminder of how important and how successful we've been as a country that was able to pull all these people from different backgrounds, different religions, different races, all over the world together. And of course, one of the groups that does that so well is the National Health Service. You go into a National Health Service hospital and it is like the Commonwealth, actually, but also other countries as well. So we've been remarkably successful in Britain at creating a stable, prosperous society, which, despite some of the exceptions, is basically a tolerant, progressive society that does welcome people who contribute to our society. Very important message, we mustn't forget it. I have to thank the guys at St Thomas's NHS Foundation Trust and Seacole. They have been amazingly supportive throughout, as have Essentia, and as have a number of other large organisations. I have to thank Martin Jennings, the sculptor. Apart from anything else, he taught me something about art, of which I know very little, I have to tell you. I'm a seriously badly informed person on art until I met Martin. But one of the things he said to me, he said, "Clive, I want to cast the disc behind Mary in the grounds of the Crimea on the site of the British hospital that Mary built there." And this was only about a year or so before the Russian occupation. And I thought, how am I going to get Martin there to the Crimea? And of course, they don't do it by a rubberized sheet anymore to take an impression of the ground. No, they take very high-tech, very electronic gear that reads the ground in great detail. And I thought, I've got Martin and two of his friends going there to take this screen with high-tech equipment right next to the largest Russian naval base in the world. I've got a problem, but we solved it, we overcame it, and that disc represents the world over which Mary Seacole travelled. I'm very, very pleased we've got to this stage today. As I say, there are too many people to thank in detail, but I do expect that in the next couple of months we will produce a book of this story of a statue, and we will have in that, thanks to so many people who've made contributions. I want to thank all of you for being here today. You've made this day very special. I think it is a good day for Mary Seacole's memory. It's a good day for those people who spoke to me, many of whom now I'm afraid are no longer with us. But I think they brought the memory of Mary Seacole from the 19th into the 20th century, and we are bringing her memory back into the 21st century. And that legacy will continue. I'm very pleased. I'm very to thank all of you. I want to thank all the trustees who put up with me for all these years, and I'm not always the easiest person to deal with, so I'm very, very pleased what they've done, and thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Soley, Clive. I was only joking earlier. We love him dearly. Now, behind every successful man, whether it's as a trustee or in a partnership of any sort, there's always a feisty woman. And Mary Seacole Memorial Statue Appeal is no different. This one is feisty, and I don't know how many of you know the saying, the Jamaican saying, "She little." I have to pull the mic down for her. I'm going to introduce you to the Vice Chair of the Mary Seacole Memorial Statue Appeal, who's Professor Elizabeth Anyonwu. Now, I always say her name in full, Professor Elizabeth Anyonwu, because many of you will know that there are not that many women of colour who are professors. So I am very proud to say Professor Elizabeth Anyonwu. Professor led pioneering work for sickle cell, and now she turned her energy and her talawaness to the Mary Seacole Statue Appeal. Please, hands together for the Vice Chair of Mary Seacole Statue.
Thank you very much indeed, Juliet. You like my gele? Yes. It's a wonderful day, and thank you so much for coming. Now, I was invited as part of the Board of Trustees to lead on the community fundraising drive. And so many of you here took just such passion in helping us with that. And of course, there are many people who are not here. So what I would like to do is to thank the thousands upon thousands of you who donated your pennies and your pounds in order to create this magnificent statue. And those individuals and organisations came from across Britain, but also beyond, and we're really grateful for that. Now, I hope you don't mind if I pick on a particular group, because I am a nurse, and I really want to talk about all the staff, not just nurses, who work in our beloved NHS, because they help me enormously in tackling this challenge of raising all this money. But I would like to say in particular a big thank you to all the nurses, midwives and health visitors and their organisations. The Royal College of Nursing, any members? There we go. Unison, anybody here? And Unite, anybody here? Excellent. You supported me so much. No. Unity is strength. It's taken 12 long years. 12 and a half, actually, if you want to be really accurate. And it's probably aged us at times. And certainly there was one day I must have looked really old and weary, because my gorgeous granddaughter, Rianne, posed this question to me. Grandma, did you nurse with Mary Seacole? I have to say at times it felt as though I was on the battlefield, but we came through. And talking about nursing and Mary Seacole, we have one of the most incredible tributes to her that was written in 1857 by the, no less, the Times Crimean War correspondent, Sir William Howard Russell. These words are actually really etched on my heart as a nurse, because he said, "I trust that England will not forget one who nursed her sick, who sought out her wounded to aid and succour them, and who performed the last offices for some of her illustrious dead." What a tribute. Now, I suggest that any nurse today, or midwife, who sent such a tribute by such an eminent person about their nursing expertise, and sent that to the Nursing and Midwifery Council for revalidation within their portfolio, they would be fast-tracked, don't you agree? Excellent. So Mary, in conclusion, Mary has not been forgotten. And I can tell you, when those wraps come down and you see the most brilliant memorial sculpted by my man, Mr. Martin Jennings. You know, he's just done Women of Steel in Sheffield. Google it if you haven't seen it. This man is a man of steel. And we owe so much to Martin. You're going to gasp when you see it. But I think that when the wraps come down, Mary might be saying something. And this is what I think she might be saying. And it's the words of a title of a poem that many of you know. It was written by Maya Angelou. And it is a poem that is a tribute to all sassy women of colour. And those words were, come on. And still I rise. Thank you.
Our thanks to Professor Elizabeth Anyonwu, Vice Chair of the Mary Seacole Statue Appeal. Now, Elizabeth mentioned our man of steel, and let me just, in introduction to him, say this. The statue called Women of Steel, Sheffield. John Betjeman, St Pancras, you've seen it, I'm sure. Philip Larkin, Hull. Charles Dickens, Portsmouth. Very soon, before your very own eyes, you're going to see Mary Seacole right here in the shadow of St Thomas's, overlooking, I keep saying that, Parliament. Please, put your hands together and let us welcome to the stage the absolutely superb sculptor, who is Martin Jennings.
Well, how do you live up to that? It's an extraordinary moment for a sculptor when his work is finally revealed. In the days leading up to the event, you've worried about every inch of it. On and off for the duration of the job, and I was commissioned to make Mary Seacole's statue 7 years ago this month. My hopes and fears for the work have risen and fallen. But once it's unveiled, straight away it's no longer yours alone. It becomes everybody's, and that's a wonderful moment. Of course, you don't make something like this on your own. I have many people to thank. I'll be as quick as I can with it. Far too many to thank, in fact, to name each personally. But I do have to mention Pangolin Editions, the wonderful bronze foundry, which is my collaborator in everything I do. Members of the foundry came with me on the trip to Crimea, and my vision for the monument was only successfully realized because they were the people to cast and install it with me. Two of them, Steve Moore and Julian Wiseman, are here today. I owe them, Ron Wickington, Claude Koenig and the whole team huge thanks. I must also thank Philomena Davidson, who steered me through the early stages, Daniel Evans, who assisted with the lettering inscriptions, and the many people at Guy's and St Thomas's Trust, at the Florence Nightingale Museum, at Sir Robert McAlpine, at Shirelmi and at Spears and Major, who brought their lustre to the many components of the work. Of course, my unbounded thanks go to all the patrons and ambassadors, and particularly to the trustees of the Mary Seacole Memorial Statue Appeal, who commissioned me to make this monument. People expect artists to be visionary, but I would use that same word to describe the best of commissioners too. This organisation has indeed been visionary. Clive, Elizabeth, Roxanne, Juliet, Dawn, Steve, and all of you, I can't name all the trustees. I cannot tell you how privileged I have felt to have been asked to make this monument, and how much I've admired your resilience over many years in bringing us to this proud day. It's been an enormous pleasure working with you. Several years ago, shortly after I was commissioned, I spoke to my brother James about the project, and he then asked his school-aged daughter what, if anything, she remembered from history lessons about the Crimean War. After a little head-scratching, she replied that she could recall only one event, and it was known as the Charge of the Nightingales. Well, this project has endured its own Charge of the Nightingales, as some of you may know. Shame on them. Mary Seacole was a remarkable, unique, brilliant and indomitable figure. All her endeavours were steered towards creating opportunities for her to care for the sick and wounded. For me, she stands as a figurehead for all those who've come from foreign countries or who've been born here into minority ethnic groups and have chosen to work as nurses in our health service. The words from her autobiography, which we've inscribed on the plinth, apply as much to them as to her. Wherever the need arises, on whatever distant shore, I ask no higher or greater privilege than to minister to it. In the early days of the project, I wanted to find an eloquent way of expressing Mary's story. It seemed to me that if I outlined her against a cast impression of the stony ground in Crimea, I would simultaneously be placing her within her own history and against a symbolic image of the cold stone walling which is at the cruel heart of the racial prejudice she had to endure. When we arrived in Crimea and found the original site of her establishment, what was most evident was that this dusty ground had been a battlefield over many centuries. The ground was littered with decades-old rusting shrapnel. The quarry face, now reproduced in bronze behind her statue, and only a couple of hundred yards from where she set up her base, carried the detonation mark of an exploding shell. This you will see in a few moments. It's almost 3 years since we were there, and in that time, Crimea has yet again been the target of foreign aggression. Mary was a battlefield nurse, and we have silhouetted her against her battlefield. That metaphor for this first monument in Britain to a named black woman continues, sadly, to seem appropriate. Heartbreakingly, the aptness of the symbol could scarcely have been more emphasized than in the last few febrile days, when in place of the open-minded, multicultural, inclusive and tolerant country that we imagined increasingly was within our grasp, the unspeakable has come to be spoken on our streets, and contempt and fear have discolored the small change of our public discourse. But come and visit this site after sunset one evening soon. You will see the statue of Mary illuminated by the spotlight here on the ground in front of her. It throws her shadow onto the bright disc behind. As you look across the river then, you will see the Palace of Westminster recede into darkness until only the lambent moon of the clock face hangs suspended in the sky. From there, a path of glittering light stretches across the river towards this spot. That moon on the other bank, the eye of Westminster, finds its mirror here in Mary Seacole's illuminated disc. I like to think that while the monument is seen, it also watches. And perhaps what it says is this: let not those things for which Mary Seacole stood, those virtues shining like a lamp across the water, her courage and resolve, her compassion, energy, and generosity in the face of all the prejudice and hostility that she and others through the ages have endured, be dimmed in the days and years ahead. In the darkness of the night, we find our way because it is illuminated by the sky's numberless stars, each one unique, of differing hue, radiant and blessed.
Our thanks to the sculptor Martin Jennings. And I will say this, that throughout all of the ins and outs of getting this statue here, Martin just had an emotional connection, as you can probably hear. He got it. He knew exactly what we wanted. And when you see that statue, it will really send shivers up your spine. It is absolutely superb. Martin Jennings. Now, Mary Seacole, of course, had a connection to England, to Scotland, and also she was of a Jamaican-born woman. It's fitting, therefore, that we invite the acting Jamaica High Commissioner, Mrs. Deirdre Mills, to say a little bit about her legacy. Mrs. Mills.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends all, I stand before you with a great sense of pride and humility, not least because I'm a woman, not least because I'm Jamaican, but more importantly because I am a human being who has been touched, like you have been, by the life of Mary Seacole. If nothing else, her legacy that she has bequeathed to us speaks to the continued and undying support that we have to give to each other. Support that extends beyond what we might see as differences. Support that simply responds to needs when they are recognized. Support that speaks to an even deeper commitment and passion that we need to take care of each other. And so it is my deep privilege to be here with you for the unveiling of what we consider as Jamaica to be the statue of a woman who has left such an indelible mark on the society. A woman who we know will continue to inspire generations to come. A woman who will forever watch over us. A woman who will forever be with us. And so we are proud that she's taking pride of place here at St. Thomas's. And we know that this could not have been done without your support. And there have been many persons who have been publicly recognized, but many who are also working behind the scenes to ensure that even beyond the unveiling today, this legacy will continue. And so I want to lend my personal thanks on behalf of the government and people of Jamaica to those who have been a part of the statue appeal, but those also of the Mary Seacole Memorial Association who continue to keep this legacy alive. Let us continue to live up to her own expectation that we will continue to be our brother's keepers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Deirdre Nelson, the Acting Jamaica High Commissioner. And I have to say, the Jamaican High Commission have been superb in their support of everything we've done. So our thanks to them and to the other High Commissioners as well. I was hoping to outspeak the Bongs, but clearly not. Now, Mary Seacole, during her lifetime and shortly after her death, had immense support from the army and from the troops that she gave last succor to during the Crimea War. It's fitting, therefore, that we invite our next speaker, who is from the Army. It's the Army Colonel Marie Richter, who is the commanding officer for 256 Field Hospital Reserve Unit. Please welcome Marie Richter.
Honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, and most importantly, nurses. As a nurse and commanding officer at the London Field Hospital, it gives me great pleasure and it's an honour to be part of this unveiling. Mary may not have had the degrees, the nursing qualifications and the portfolio certificates that nurses have now, but she had the most important quality for someone who used her skills and experience to improve the lives of others, and that is, she cared. Caring is the core value of every nurse. It's at the centre of all we do for our patients. Despite the discrimination that Mary Seacole received during her lifetime, her passion for caring was unstoppable. Caring for soldiers is the most rewarding experience of any military nurse's career. They are the most motivated patients I have ever looked after. Ask them to take a few steps tomorrow and they'll be determined to take even more steps than you asked, but today. This is an attitude driven by loyalty to their colleagues in the armed forces to return to health and make that contribution again. Today we recognise Mary Seacole's contribution to that effort. And here I have to declare my bias. I've spent 25 years as a nurse in this hospital, moving out only last year. I was therefore not surprised that following 13 years of campaigning and appearing, that Mary Seacole's memorial would be in St. Thomas's Gardens, a hospital which not only tolerates but accepts and celebrates diversity and the essential contribution a diverse workforce has on these patients in this hospital. But it also has the leadership to stand out and do what's right for its patients, its nurses and its staff. Recognition of Mary Seacole's contribution to nursing is one of those acts. not only for Mary, but also symbolising the contribution of all black and ethnic minorities to nursing. So every day, as nurses go on duty, they walk past this memorial and I hope say, "Good morning, Mary." They need to take with them that passion for caring that she represents. And if they do so, then this will be an even better hospital. Thank you.
I love that. The idea of all the nurses walking past and saying, "Good morning, Mary." Yeah? When it's unveiled, I think you all have to do a chorus of "Good morning, Mary." Thank you very much, Maria Richter. I'd now like to invite back up onto the stage, because we've come to that time when you might just get a chance to see this statue that's going to stand here forever. Your children, your grandchildren, forever. It's amazing. Named statue, the first to a black woman in the UK. I'd like to invite back our chair, Clive Soley, Lord Soley, who will introduce the unveiling part of today. Clive Soley.
Yes, and now we come to the big moment. I've waited 13 years for it, but other people and Mary have waited about 180. So things are looking quite good for them. Just before I start that, I want to say with great pride that we also have here Baroness Scotland, the Commonwealth Secretary General of the Commonwealth, which again represents Seacole here. I'm absolutely delighted that you could join us, Patricia. Thank you very much. The person who's going to do the unveiling today, very well known, a strong voice in the House of Lords, Baroness Floella Benjamin, Deputy Lieutenant of the Greater London area. Floella has been a great supporter right from the word go. So I'm proud to say, please Floella, come and give us your words, and then we will move to the statue to unveil it. Thank you.
Here's looking at you through the round window. I had to get that over with. Distinguished guests, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, children. In my role as the Deputy Lieutenant of Greater London, I am proud, I am privileged and honoured to be sharing this joyful celebration with you all. This historic occasion in recognition of the great Mary Seacole. Mary was a humanitarian, a woman who was determined, full of resilience and compassion. She was no ordinary human being. She knew that she felt a sense of duty and wanted to make a difference, to care for her fellow human beings. This woman never took no for an answer. She believed in herself. She wanted to show that she had dignity and compassion. She did so in such a way that we are celebrating today. Isn't that wonderful? Mary was a battlefield nurse. A battlefield nurse that got her hands dirty. She lifted the spirits of those who she cared for. She comforted them both mentally, physically, and emotionally by being there for them in their hour of need. She was a strong, intrepid Caribbean woman.
African woman.
She was a strong, intrepid Caribbean woman who was not afraid to go where others feared to tread. She was made of strong stock, African stock, Scottish stock, which is a formidable blend. And her legacy is a great gift to our children. For them to believe in themselves, to face the obstacles in life. Never, never, never think you're not worthy. Face the challenges. Act with morality, with integrity, with honesty, and be the person other people can trust. The soldiers could trust Mary. They knew she would be there for them. And that's what we have to do as people of this world, to show that we are worthy by our commitment to duty and our dedication to other people's lives, to show the world through our actions that we are worthy. We are worthy. We believe in ourselves. And I stand here as a Caribbean woman myself, with strong African blood and Scottish blood too. And I now stand in the House of Lords, where 500 years ago, the people who stood in that same place decided on the destiny of my ancestors. Who would have thought? If you believe in yourself, anything is possible. So I stand before you and I pay tribute, not just to Mary, but to my ancestors and for generations to come. Understand that we are all part of this incredible tapestry of history of our country, woven together with blood, with love, and with compassion. And so I am honored, I'm privileged, and I'm thrilled. I feel that I am the chosen one today to be able to stand here and unveil the statue of Mary Seacole in recognition of her bravery, her generosity of spirit, and her moral courage. And I hope when Mary's statue stands there glowing, not just through the day, but in the night, it will inspire others to go on and do just that, especially our children. Thank you very much. Here I go. To Mary.
Our thanks to Baroness Benjamin for that amazing, rousing speech through the square window, the triangular window, the round window, wherever it came from. I'd just like to say that the young lady who gave the presentation of Bouquet is Professor Elizabeth Adionru's granddaughter, Rianne. Her mother, Azuka, is Louise in Casualty. You see the nursing collection? Do you see? So our thanks to Rianne. Thank you, my love. Okay, now what do you think of the statue? I didn't hear anyone say hello. Good afternoon, Mary. Thank you. We love you, Mary. That's all we want to hear. We love you. Now, I want to mention somebody else whilst I'm up here. I want to mention Cleo Sylvester. Cleo, please. Now, many of you may have seen this fabulous actress. She does a one-woman show, a one-woman Mary Seacole show. And Cleo, come in the middle so we can see you and take photographs, please. Look at the marvelous Cleo Sylvester, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank everyone, all the trustees. Most of them are arraigned along there. Do give a wave. They have been absolutely amazing, and I can't say how fabulously brilliantly they've worked. It's not just Clive, it's not just Elizabeth. There's Dawn, and there's Manel, and there's, who else like Roxanne, and there's people who come back, and people who, you know, it's been a long, long program of people working at this. And of course yourselves. You've contributed on every single level. We've got a comedian there in the crowd who has done Rudy Blackwood, who's done Lickwood. That was a close thing. I was just waiting for you to say that, Rudy. who's done some amazing fundraising on our behalf. We've got the BCA in Brixton who have given us very generously the premises so we can do fundraisers. So we've got some people here who have done fabulous things, and we thank you all. Thank you all very much for coming out today. It's a momentous occasion. I thank you all on behalf of the Mary Seacole Memorial Statue of Guild. Thank you.